Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HandfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HandfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HandfordCapital.com.
Thanks for joining us today, Friday, for the Tough Decisions podcast. This is Dennae, and I am flying solo today. Dan is busy working on several projects, and I know he did a couple of weeks now by himself because I was tied up. So I'm going to be doing a brief podcast with you today. And I want to share something that I read recently and some lessons that I found in it. And I thought it was interesting for several reasons, which I think you'll understand as we talk here. And it does have to do with the matter of employees and, handling employee feedback and giving feedback to your employees, which I know we've been talking about for the last several weeks now. So permit me to go off course just a little bit, but I think it does tie in. And so I think you'll be able to gain some insight from this article that I read, just as I did. And so I just want to kind of summarize the article. First thing I want to do is tell you about a book written by Kristen Hadid. The title of the book is Permission to Screw Up. And Kristen is the founder of a company called Student Made, and she started this cleaning company when she was in college. And she talks about in this book, Permission to Screw Up, everything that she did wrong on her way to becoming a really good CEO and company leader. In fact, the subtitle of the book is How I Learned to Lead by Doing, parentheses, almost everything wrong. And so it's kind of funny. She shares a lot of personal stories, but along the way, she also shares the lessons that she learns. Now, I haven't actually read the entire book all the way through. It's on my reading list. I have read portions of it, so I can loosely recommend it once I finish reading it. And then, I'll be able to give you a better idea. But I do think it would be something that is a valuable read. It's called Permission to Screw Up by Kristen Hadid. And the reason I mention that is that she's also the author of this article that I read. I read it on LinkedIn, and the title of the article is Feedback Gone Wrong at the Blow Dry Bar. Now, Kristen talks about how she travels a lot and she spends a large portion of her time now trying to look presentable for an audience. And so when she's at home and she's trying to relax, the last thing that she wants to do is fix her hair. So she has found these establishments where she lives that are called blow dry bars. And you can go into this, basically it's a salon. You don't have to get your hair cut. You can just go in and they'll wash your hair. They will blow dry it for you. And then they'll style it. And that's it. You just pay them a fee and you get your hair fixed for free. And she talks about how the fee is more than reasonable for her because it allows her to relax and she doesn't have to worry about how she looks. And for her, who's, since she spends a large portion of her time otherwise, trying to get ready to be presentable, then she feels like this is a good way for her to relax. So she talks about the fact that she has found this local spot that she likes to go to and she goes to pretty often. She really loves the stylists in there. They always do a good job. But one day she went in there, it wasn't too long ago, that she went in and things were just kind of tense. If you've ever walked into a room where you can just sort of sense the atmosphere is just a little thick and tense. Everybody was quiet. They weren't their usual chatty selves. In fact, there was not even any music playing that day, which she had mentioned previously. She liked to go to this place because they always had some sort of upbeat music going and she could just sort of drift into her own little world. But when she walked in on this day, everything was very quiet and it was very tense. And she was greeted by someone that she had not been greeted by before. And it didn't take her too long to realize that the person who greeted her was actually the owner. And so she sat down and she started waiting her turn. And as she watched the interactions between the owner and the employees, she realized that was the reason why these employees were tense. They weren't relaxed. Nobody seemed to really be enjoying what they were doing that particular day. And she makes a couple of other observations that aren't really related to the point of this article, so I'm going to skip down a little bit. Bottom line is, as she was sitting there waiting for her turn, the owner got up and walked over to one of the employees, one of the stylists, Laura, who, incidentally, Kristen had just been thinking, wow, I hope I get Laura because she seems to really be doing a great job. Maybe it'll fall for my turn when she's available, because in this particular establishment, you don't have an appointment. You just go in and you get the next available stylist. So she's watching this, and the owner walks up to the stylist, and she calls her Laura. That's not her actual name. And she has this short interaction. Basically, the gist of it is the owner asks the employee, how long have you been there? And then she proceeds to tell her that, she's really disappointed with her performance because she shows a picture. This particular patron had come in and she didn't receive the service that they seek to give. In particular, her hair was too flat, apparently. There was no volume, and we always promise volume, and I had to give her a refund. And basically telling her, this cost me money, and I need you to really work on learning our way of doing things so that we can keep you on here. Can you do that? And of course, the employee at that point nodded her head, and you could tell Kristen said that she was embarrassed. She wanted to cry. If she didn't, you could tell she wanted to. And about that time, then Kristen was called over to go to the next available stylist. Now, the question then is, what was wrong with the interaction, and why was it a problem for this employee in the way the feedback was given? The title of the article, after all, is Feedback Gone Wrong at the Blow Dry Bar. So Kristen offers several pointers here as far as feedback, and she actually makes a statement that everyone, all CEOs, all managers should have to go through a course called Feedback 101. And she mentions that she feels like feedback is not something that really a whole lot of people are naturally good at. It's something that we have to work at and we have to practice, and it's sometimes uncomfortable. So what are some problems with the way this particular owner gave her feedback? Well, number one, and maybe the most obvious, so you've probably already thought of it, is she gave her feedback in public. And she spoke to that employee in front of another stylist, in front of another customer, instead of calling her over and having the conversation in private, and always in person. So you want to give it in person. You don't want to give it feedback over text or email. Sometimes you never can tell what someone's tone is in those kinds of media, but you want to do it in person, which the employer did, but she gave it in front of other people. You always, always, always want to do it in a private way, because that allows the employee space and time to process that without feeling embarrassed or, humiliated even. Secondly, the author here, Kristen, says that she made it a one-way conversation. She didn't give the employee any chance to share her own opinions or thoughts. She gave the feedback, she told the employee to improve, and then she made it very clear that the conversation was over. And that is a quick way of, giving the feedback, but it also makes the employee feel unheard or not valued. Probably the employee did need a little bit more training, but maybe she disagreed with the feedback. We'll never know, because, she wasn't given any chance to actually give any feedback. So always give an opportunity for that employee to give feedback, and don't make it a one-way conversation. Thirdly, this particular employer, she had terrible timing. So aside from actually doing it in public, she delivered her feedback, and then she actually asked the employee to go back and serve another customer, and didn't even give her time to recover or practice or, process what was being said. Fourthly, and this is where Kristen offers some additional guidance, she said she has terrible delivery. Delivery is everything when it comes to feedback. And so she offers the FBI method of delivery, and she actually got that from another of her CEO friends at Barry Waymiller, but it's called FBI. And she says it's the best way ever to deliver feedback. So what is the FBI? you want to make sure that your feedback includes 3 things: the way you feel, the specific behavior that made you feel that way, and the impact that the behavior had. Now, I can speak specifically to the behavior part. You want to address the behavior because you don't want the employee to feel like it's them, right? And I say that because I've been in the same situation with my children before. If you can address the behavior specifically, then you can address that and fix it and help them move forward without making them feel like it was the person that you were mad with or the person that you had the problem with. And then the impact that the behavior had. So here's an example of what this employer could have said. Laura, that's the employee, I really care about your growth and development here, which is why I have to tell you this. I feel frustrated because last week you served a customer and didn't put enough volume in her hair. That's the specific behavior, which is our signature here. The impact was I had to give her a refund. Can you help me understand how this happened? So there she gives the opportunity for feedback. So you see how that takes on an entirely different tone. And of course, if it was done in private as opposed to in front of another customer and in front of another employee, then, you have the best possible situation there. So Kristen Hadid, the author of Permission to Screw Up, talks about feedback and how to give feedback in a way that will improve your employees and improve your company. Just quickly to review those 4 action steps that she talks about. We don't want to give critical feedback in public. We want to make sure that it's more than a one-way conversation, that we give the other person a chance to respond so that person can feel heard and valued, and perhaps there's something that we don't understand about the situation as well. We want to make sure our timing is right, and we want to make sure the delivery is right. And one of the ways to deliver your feedback effectively is with the FBI method. Make sure you include 3 things: the way you feel, the specific behavior that made you feel that way, and the impact that the behavior had, because that preserves the person and addresses the behavior, which is what we want to change and improve anyway. Thanks for joining me today. And if you have any feedback for us, be sure to go to our toughdecisions.net webpage, and you can send us a message there. You can also go to our Facebook page and send us a message that way. And you can also send us an email, Dennae@toughdecisions.net or Dan@toughdecisions.net. We value your feedback. We want to know how we've been able to challenge you, or maybe you have a challenge for our way of thinking, and we'd like to hear that as well. So give us your feedback that way. Dan will be with you tomorrow for his Saturday episode, and I'll be with you on Sunday for our Sunday episode, the final episode of our book series on how children succeed. And then I'll have a very special Sunday episode for you next Sunday. That's November 25th, where I'll be sharing an interview that I did with Dr. Brian Davidson of the Intrinsic Institute. And I can't wait for you to hear the conversation that we were able to have and some of the things that I was able to learn from his experiences. So thanks for joining us today, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.